and there's, you know, there's lots of things that could happen. I know that for a lot of people, the community that found organizing in their communities with the Occupy movement has created very strong ties and bonds for them, and they will keep organizing with those people, even if it's not necessarily under the header of Occupy. I think there's a large debate in the movement about whether public space is like central to the movement or is like a tactic that we used for a while and now we don't need anymore. So I think there's a possibility that come to springtime there'll be a lot of encampments that spring up again, but I think there's also the possibility that some places will decide that they want to put their energy other places rather than creating encampments, and so they won't do that as much. I think there's a lot of thoughts and energy around really large days of organizing that are coming up in the current year, and it sort of, I think, remains to be seen, like, how many people are going to jump on board with that, like, how many people are actually going to be on the streets, you know, like, for the Republican National Convention, or like for the G8 Summit in Chicago, or like for the ALEC meetings, or like for anything, you know? There's a lot of different ideas about what people want to mobilize around, and so I don't, like, currently, I'm not sure, because we're sort of like in the beginning stages of like a sort of like winter-long national conversation. Like, I haven't been part of that conversation long enough to be like, oh, and here's where it's going, you know? Like, I see all these directions that it could go. As for the sort of political party, like, there's definitely pressure from organizations that are already working within the electoral reform system to, like, take a lot of the sentiments and the slogans and the "We are 99% and use that to back their political candidates. There's people in the movement who I think would totally, like, be like, yeah, we should do that. That's a really good way to, like, get our fingers in the door and, like, let's support people who support our views and stuff. And then there's people who are like, you know, the political system is corrupt and it corrupts anyone who steps in the door, and I think, you know, I think Obama has been a really big learning lesson for a lot of the American public, that you can't just, like, there's not going to be a stopgap measure, you know? Like, you can't put someone in power who's going to fix it all, because actually we need to be all organizing together to, like, create a different reality and, like, creating community and taking care of each other's needs, you know? And, like, no president can do that for us, you know? Like, just like, and even if he, like, passed a bill, like, if it was like, okay, I want to abolish the American government, I want to, like, give land rights to all Native communities, we need to stop all exploitative extraction now, we need to pay reparations to like, descendants of slaves, that wouldn't go through Congress, you know, like, that wouldn't be approved. So, like, no matter the will of the person in that office, you know, there's no way that that will can be achieved except through the will of the people on the ground who are creating their lives and creating their reality every day. So I feel like I guess what I personally think is the future of the movement is that these occupations have created spaces for people to, like, remember, to learn, like, how important community is, like, how important struggle is, how important fighting for the things you believe in are, like, how possible it is to really take care of each other when we all come together, and how, like, it might seem like, oh my god, you've got all these needs and no way to get met, and then you sit down with your neighbors and, like, your community, and you realize, like, oh, everyone else has those needs and we can all figure out how to meet each other's needs together. So I think that, like, these spaces have started to do that for people, and I think that it's, like, it's gonna, like, swing back and forth, and people are gonna be, like, totally inspired and, like, totally engaged and totally, like, yeah, the revolution is now, and then they're gonna get repressed, or they're gonna get burnout, or they're gonna get distracted by their jobs, or, like, someone in their family dying, and so they're gonna, like, go away, you know, and then they might sink back into their kind of, like, American fog of ignorance for a while, and then they'll, you know, they'll move again. But, like, every time we move, it's like they're increasing their skill, they're increasing their number of relationships, like, they're increasing their capacity to, like, be in community, you know, and to, like, work together. So I don't know whether this spring is going to be, like, if this spring is the one that overthrows the, like, neoliberal capitalist empire, like, fuck yeah, you know, that's great. I don't know if that's what's going to happen, you know, but I think that there's, you know, just like the empire keeps chipping away at our ability to, like, live well with each other, I think we're gonna keep chipping away at its ability to, like, reproduce itself and to, like, have its hegemonic logic and to say that it's the only way, because it's definitely not the only way. There's other ways that are much older and much better.